Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajakacarya, austere Satya Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada Ki, Vedanta Gaudiya Vaishnavindi Ki, Radha Madhava Ki, Lord Nrsimhadev Ki, Panchatattva Ki, opening of the Temple of Vedic Planetarium Ki, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. So now we will chant the invocation, and in your mind I want you to concentrate on which invocation you want. It can either be the first 5 words of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the first 5 words of the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, or it can be the mantra that Dhruva Maharaj chanted in the forest. You think in your mind which one of those 3 you want, and I guarantee you'll get your wish. Here it goes. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I did that to show that we can get to the same place or get different goals achieved by the same process. And we'll think about in this verse. Today we are going to read from the 3rd canto, the 24th chapter, the 17th verse. And there will be a test on some of the things that come here. I will call on people. Here we go. jñāna-vijñāna-yogena karmaṇām uddharan jaṭāḥ hiraṇya-keśaḥ padma-akṣaḥ padma-mudrā-padāmbujaḥ jñāna-vijñāna-yogena karmaṇām uddharam jaṭāḥ hiraṇya-keśaḥ, padma-akṣaḥ, padma-mudrā-padāmbujaḥ, jñāna-vijñāna-yogena, karmaṇām uddharan jaṭāḥ, hiraṇya-keśaḥ, padma-akṣaḥ, padma-mudrā-padāmbujaḥ, jñāna-vijñāna-yogena, karmaṇām uddharan jaṭāḥ, hiraṇya-keśaḥ, padma-akṣaḥ, padma-mudrā-padāmbujaḥ. Ladies? Jnana of scriptural knowledge, vijnana, and application, yogena, by means of mystic yoga, karmaṇām, of material actions, uddharan, uprooting, jaṭāḥ, the roots, hiraṇya-keśaḥ, golden hair, padma-akṣaḥ, lotus-eyed, padma-mudrā, marked with signs of the lotus, pada-ambujaḥ, having lotus feet. Translation: by mystic yoga and the practical application of knowledge from the scriptures, Kapila Muni, who is characterized by his golden hair, his eyes just like lotus petals, and his lotus feet which bear the marks of lotus flowers, will uproot the deep-rooted desire for work in this material world. Let's repeat that together, because I'm going to test you on some of the things in this verse, so be prepared. By mystic yoga and the practical application of knowledge from the scriptures, Kapila Muni, who is characterized by his golden hair, his eyes just like lotus petals, and his lotus feet, which bear the marks of lotus flowers, will uproot the deep-rooted desire for work in this material world. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. In this verse, the activities and bodily features of Kapila Muni are very nicely described. The activities of Kapila Muni are forecast herein. He will present the philosophy of Sankhya in such a way that by studying his philosophy, people will be able to uproot the deep-rooted desire for karma, fruitive activities. Everyone in this material world engages in achieving the fruits of his labor. A man tries to be happy by achieving the fruits of his own labor, but actually he becomes more entangled. One cannot get out of this entanglement. Unless he has perfect knowledge or devotional service. That's good news. If just one cannot get out of this entanglement, we're in trouble. There are those who are trying to get out of the entanglement by speculation are doing their best. But in the Vedic scriptures, we find that if one has taken to the devotional service of the Lord in Krishna consciousness, he can very easily uproot the deep-rooted desire for fruitive activities. Sankhya philosophy will be broadcast by Kapila Muni for that purpose. His bodily features are described herein. Jnana does not refer to ordinary research work. Jnana entails receiving knowledge from the scriptures through the spiritual master by disciplic succession. In the modern age, there is a tendency to do research by mental speculation and concoction. But the man who speculates forgets that he is subject to the 4 defects of nature. 1, he is sure to commit mistakes. 2, his senses are imperfect. 3, he is sure to fall into illusion. And 4, he is cheating. Unless one has perfect knowledge from disciplic succession, he simply puts forward some theories of his own creation. Therefore, he is cheating people. Jnana means knowledge received through disciplic succession from the scriptures. And vijnana means practical application of such knowledge. Kapila Muni's Sankhya system of philosophy is based on jnana and vijnana. So here we're reading about understanding the Sankhya philosophy taught by Kapila Muni. You know what's something that's interesting is Lord Chaitanya says that he's a capitalist. Don't answer that yet. I want you to think on this a while, what that means. Because generally, what does capital mean? Capital means the ability. You have money or property or shares of stocks that you can use to increase your wealth. So how is it that Lord Chaitanya is a capitalist? Don't answer it yet. I want you to think about that, and we'll discuss a few things, and we'll get back to that point. So, the Sankhya philosophy basically is analytical study. What Kapila Dev will give is basically, as Prabhupada says in one purport, the Sankhya is what is matter, what is spirit, and who is the controller of both. Now, in material Sankhya, they analyze things, like say in business ventures. They say things such as real estate should be given its highest and best use. Each piece may have a different use. If it's a growing vegetables is good, but not in the most expensive piece of property. So in the material Sankhya, say in financial investments, they look at what is the cost to value ratio. If something is worth 5 crores and you can get it for 2, that's good. If it costs 10, it's not good. The cost to benefit, what I'm putting out, what I'm getting back. And the risk to the rewards. Now, how about in spiritual endeavors? Don't we do the same thing? Isn't this what the philosophy of Sankhya is to show us? What is the cost we're giving, and what are we getting back? Cost of devotional service may be more, but the result is much greater than that. So we have to understand what that cost to value ratio is, what the risk to the rewards are. The materialistic activities that come with karmic results, there isn't a list on them with the risk. Or maybe some of them, like the cigarette package says that this can cause cancer. So you see that the risk to the reward is not very good. You smoke in some smoke and you can risk a bad disease. Already the air quality is so bad that if you do a little Sankhya, you wouldn't want to smoke a cigarette. You'd want to purify the air instead. So we find that the same qualities are necessary in the spiritual endeavor. Is it not true? So how do we approach this? In the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita's 16th verse, Krishna states that those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent there is no endurance, and of the eternal there is no cessation. These seers have studied this, have learned this by studying the nature of both. So which is important for us? Who can answer this question? To learn about the eternal nature by Sankhya, and which is also more important, is do we learn it from a tattva-darshan, a self-realized soul, or someone who comes in the chain of disciplic succession? Which one is it? Which one? What was the answer? No one knows? Both. You got it right. It is both. If someone's in disciplic succession but they don't know anything, that may not be helpful. And someone can declare themselves a tattva-darshan. They can look the part. It's like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada gave the lecture about mortology and ontology. And mortology is the form, and ontology is the real content. And we want to know what the real content is. So for someone to get the content, they have to be in disciplic succession, and they have to be a realized soul. We can see how this is, that if I put on a cricket uniform, I even put number 10 on it. That makes me the best cricket player, right? And I stand out in the field with the cricket bat. But what is the problem? The form looks good, but I have no idea about cricket. I know they have a ball, but I don't even know what the ball looks like. But the form looks good. I learned this in Miami when, speaking of investments, my children and I went to Miami to buy properties, foreclosures at like 1/4 the cost compared to the value. So I got all dressed up to go to the Sunday feast in Adoti and walked out of the motel room. 3 men came dressed in dhotis and kurtas. And I said, Hare Krishna. They said, what? I said, how can you be saying what? I said, you coming to the temple? They said, the what? Oh, I'm going, how? What do you mean, the what? So I'm walking this way. They say, where are you going? They said, the toga party is in here. Because the Greeks would have a toga party dressed in something, maybe it's not exactly like a dhoti and a kurta, but that's what they were wearing. So the form looked the same, but the content was not as good. I may have not done well in the toga party, but they would have been worse coming to give the lecture, right? You would ask them, can you give the lecture about Srimad Bhagavatam? They would say, the what? But the form looks good. So we have to have someone who's coming into succession. Krishna says, Evam parampara praptam imam rajarishi vidu. The knowledge was imparted into succession. But they also have to be the Tattvadarshan. So at this point, we wonder, even Arjuna asked the question of Krishna, which is better, to do the analytical study, Sankhya, of material and spiritual nature, or to practice devotional service? Who knows what Krishna says? It goes back, yes. Both. That's why in the beginning I said that which mantra do you want? The Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya is the same for all three. Krishna says that one who applies himself well to one achieves the results of both. So we need to have some analytical study, and we need to have some practical knowledge. Just like if you're going to bake a cake, it's important to have the practical knowledge, yes? But if we come over to get your cake and you said, yes, I studied the recipe, did you perform practical application of baking the cake? No, but I studied the recipe very well. That wouldn't come out well. We need to make a study of what we're doing. And at the same time, we need to make a practical application. So this is going to be the Sankhya that Kapila Dev describes, how we analyze. Because if we practice devotional service, Krishna says that by experiencing a higher taste, even though the lower taste remains, they become fixed in consciousness. And Prabhupada explains in the purport, in the verse about the analytical study and the practice of bhakti, he says the analytical study is like trying to find out where the root of the tree is. When you find it, you water it. Bhakti is watering the root of the tree, and by watering it, you discover where it is. So both lead to there. But for us, it's good to have a combination of both to understand. It talks in the 3rd chapter about Bhagavad Gita, what our greatest enemy is, what drives us to perform sinful activities, almost against our own will. And of course, the answer is lust. And Krishna explains that the way to conquer this is to use deliberate spiritual intelligence. Now, what does deliberate mean? Deliberate means you gain all the facts, and then you perform Sankhya, you analyze. Okay, this looks good, but what is it really? Like there's signs up that say, beware of brokers selling property. But what if they sell you the property for half price, but you don't get a proper deed? Did you get it for half price? No, you only got cheated for half the money. But it looks good, half price. This is why Krishna, the whole Bhagavad Gita is basically You know, in Christianity, they say you're going to hell if you don't practice this. Krishna basically gives the risk to reward and the cost to value of certain activities and certain conditions according to the three modes of material nature and lets you decide. Krishna says in the end that you can do as you wish, but he says to deliberate. He says deliberate fully. Just like in a court of law, they said you speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Just like if I grab one of your keys and I'm running out the door and you grab me and take the keys, someone says, oh, he's Kshudi and he took his keys away. But it's not the whole truth. The truth is I stole his keys first. So that's why he says deliberate fully. Because if we only deliberate partially, we end up with the wrong conclusion. Let's deliberate a brief explanation of the happiness in the three modes. It says that in the beginning, happiness in the mode of goodness is poison. It says in the mode of ignorance that happiness in the mode of ignorance is also poison. And it says that for the mode of passion, it is nectar in the beginning. What is the obvious conclusion? The happiness in the mode of passion is the best. Because in the beginning, the goodness is like poison. The ignorance is like poison, but in the beginning, the passion is like nectar. Now, I've made an analysis. Is my analysis correct and thorough? I made an analysis about the beginning. This is the way most people analyze it, isn't it? Wow, that member of the opposite sex looks good. I have to get involved with them no matter what the cost, right? After all, it's happiness in the beginning. That's all that's important. Is that true? Most people think that way, don't they? So why isn't it true? What did I fail to do? What? Oh, is that important, what takes place later? Oh, it is. See, that's it. I have to complete the analysis. Because in the mode of ignorance, it's also poison in the end. In the mode of passion, it's like nectar in the beginning, but it's poison in the end. I may sell it to you for half the price, but it's 1/10 the value. The risk to reward ratio is not good. That's why you deliberate fully. Prabhupada says, like you climb on a plane flight from here to New York, you can't decide, I think I'll go to Africa now. Certain choices, you have free will, but when you make certain choices, you're bound to the result. So you have to deliberate fully. The mode of passion is going to be poison in the end. Is that true? Do people get sex desire and act on it indiscriminately? And then do they suffer poison in the end? Some of the rich people thought, well, we'll go to an island and we'll have sex with underage girls and no one will ever know, right? Except now that it comes out. So it may have been some kind of happiness in the beginning, but as Krishna says, for someone who's been honored, dishonor is worse than death. Now all of a sudden they're accused of doing something that, so we have to think something through. You have to have a different mindset. Prabhupada says if you want to advance spiritually, we think, I could die today. But if you want to enjoy materially, you think, I'm never going to die. That's the way you need to think when you want to enjoy materially. But what's the problem with that? The chances of me never dying are not very good. Is it 10%? The chance I won't die Is it 50%, 10%, or 0, the chance that I won't die? It's probably 0, right? Or do I get an exemption? No. So you have to think that way to enjoy. The person has to think, look, what I do, no one's going to see this. And then when it comes out and everybody reads about them in a file, now what? You just go back in the past and change it? You can't change the present by going to the past, but we can change the future by doing what is correct now. So that Sankhya means we have to analyze it fully. And we look at it. What's going on? People think with the different modes of nature. We have to look at the whole picture. In the second chapter, Krishna explains that while contemplating the objects of the senses, one develops attachment for them. From such attachment, lust arises. From lust, anger occurs. From anger becomes delusion. From delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory's bewildered, intelligence is lost. When intelligence is lost, we fall down into the material world. Does that look like it's getting worse as it goes on? So when do we think of it? Krishna mentions in the third chapter about karma yoga that from the very beginning, we curb this lust by regulating the senses. You regulate the senses as to what they're going to do. We get it mixed up. The people who are thinking the only important thing is I get pleasure now, they get the order of things mixed up. Because Krishna says that above matter is the senses. And above the senses is the mind. Above the mind is the intelligence. Above that is the soul. So the soul should use the intelligence to regulate the mind what to do and what not to do. As Krishna says in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, from whenever and wherever the mind wanders, one should pull it back under the control of the self. People get this mixed up. They let the senses become attracted to matter, forgetting what the cost might be. Sure, I get 10% of the pleasure, but I'm going to pay 100 times the price. Is that good? I'll give you a 500 rupee note right now, and you don't have to pay me till tomorrow. I'll tell you tomorrow what the cost is. Is that good? I'll do it right now. Tomorrow you come, I say it's 1 lakh of rupees. But we do material activities this way. We sign up for it without knowing what the cost is. If I say, I'll give you the product today, tomorrow I'll tell you the cost. Is that good? These things, we know they come with a cost, but it doesn't come with a label explaining that. So the senses are attracted to the matter, and then the mind becomes absorbed in thoughts of how to enjoy. And instead of the intelligence directing the mind how to go to Krishna, the mind tries to get the intelligence to find the ways and the means to fulfill my desires. The man walked up to the woman and says, "You come here often? You seem very cute. Can we spend some time together?" Or the woman says the same thing, and they're just thinking, how can I satisfy my senses? At what cost? Because even though it's true, we have to think about the result later. Most people don't. Whole governments are run this way. They call that with the CIA the blowback. The thing that they do to solve the problem creates a bigger problem than the original problem. We quite often find this, that we have material desires, but with a sick mind, our solution is even a bigger problem than the problem was. We have the problem with lust in the mind, so we just go and grab a member of the opposite sex. Now the solution is a much bigger problem than the original problem is. Big important people go to the island and have sexual relations with underage girls? So far, so good. It's like jumping off the top of the building. You go to the TOVP and you jump off. Halfway down, you think, no problem yet, right? But when you hit and you get the result, that's when the problem comes. So this Sankhya, this deliberating, means that we have to start the day. We have to put the mind on a leash. Here's where it is. You put it on here, and you pull it back under the control of self. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And just like with the material investments, people analyze what is going to be a good return with little risk. People buy fixed deposits, which is a bond fund. People buy stocks that pay dividends. And some people buy capital growth stocks, that the stock is supposed to increase in value, but doesn't pay so much. If you want money out, you have to sell it. And who determines whether it increases in value? Do you determine that? Or do some other factors determine that? What if I could give you a capital appreciation investment that you determine how the value goes up? Would that interest you? Would it? And we have to understand these again through the disciplic succession and through the tattva darshans, because remember, we had 4 defects. Anybody remember one of those defects? Imperfect senses. Anybody doesn't have imperfect senses? What's another one? Cheating. And what's a third one? Make mistakes. And what else? How about those? So we have to look at it. So we use capital to, if you have a piece of property, you can sell it or borrow against it to buy more shares or to buy more property. And you can get so many things with these shares. So why does Lord Chaitanya say that he's a capitalist? Because just like materially, somebody may own a company, but he's not allowing you to invest in that, even if you have money. So how is it that Lord Chaitanya is the capitalist? Because here's the difference. It's spiritual capital. And with the spiritual capital, there's different investments we can make. The Shravanam is the hearing, Kirtanam is the chanting, Smaranam is remembering, Padasevanam is worshiping the lotus feet, Archanam is worshiping the deity, Vandanam is making prayers, Sakyam is making friendship with the Lord, and Atmanivedanam is surrendering everything. And either one of these singularly is a good investment, but the best thing is just to invest in the whole fund, all 9 processes together. And the difference was, if you buy some shares in a company, you have to check to see if the external factors or the internal factors made that value go up and down. But by you putting more devotion and more surrender, you can make your spiritual capital go up. Why is the spiritual capital better than the material? Because the material, you can buy things, quite often they get you in trouble. Right? The one man sang a song, I'm just a simple man. I only really want 4 things in life. Older whiskey, younger women, faster cars, and more money. That goes along with live fast, die young, and leave a beautiful body behind. Because all those things will simply kill someone. So he's using this capital for a negative investment. But with the spiritual capital, you have the choice of saying, okay, if I concentrate on my rounds and I surrender, the value goes up on this based on what I put in it. The other investments don't do that. You have to look at what the market conditions are, what that country does, and whatever Donald Trump and other politicians do can make it better or worse. And you don't have the ability to understand in that. And there's certain things that cannot be bought no matter how much capital you have. Elon Musk is is probably the richest person in America. Rothschilds have lots of money. But there's certain capital that this money will not buy. How about Sat Chit Ananda, eternity, knowledge, and bliss? Can you buy that for a lakh of rupees? Crore? Maybe if you invest it in the TOVP, but that turns the material capital into spiritual capital. If you keep it for yourself, you can't buy these things. Krishna says in 10th chapter, 10th verse, to those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they come to me. So this is the capital we need to understand. We analyze that these material activities, we put a lot of time, a lot of mental effort, and a lot of money into things that are going to have a negative effect. If I tell you, if you invest 1 crore of rupees with me, it's going to cost you a lakh of rupees extra every week, and you get no return. Are you ready to invest? No, but materially, quite often it's that way. We invest in activities that simply create more pain and suffering, and we had to pay with mental anguish, money, and time. But the spiritual capital makes us happy, joyous, free. Things also, what do you get with the spiritual capital? You get the things like Sarupya, Salokya, Sampiya, Sharsti. You can end up with the opulences. You get a form like the Lord. You understand what your original Swarup is. You get to live on the planet of the Lord. These things only come through the spiritual capital. So the Sankhya is to understand how these material activities are entangling us. Just like when people understand, Prabhupada says in purports in the chapter about the 3 modes of material nature, that when someone understands how these modes are working, he can make the influence cease. When you've done the Sankhya and understood that while contemplating objects of the senses, you develop attachment, and from the attachment comes lust and then anger, this tells us to quit early, right? From the very beginning, regulate the senses. That's what this tells us to do. We learn from that. People don't have the proper information. People become bad drunks. They have 1 drink, then they have to have a second, a third, a fourth, 10, and number 12. So maybe they don't get drunk till somewhere between about 4 and 7 of the drinks. So which is the drink that is the bad one? The first one. Because the first one puts you in the mode of ignorance, and from that, it creates more of it. Just like chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, we got a taste, we want to do more of it. The same works the other way around. Once they enter into that system, that mode starts working, and then they have to have more. So they find it's easier for a person to have no alcohol than to just have 1 or 2 drinks, because that may cause them to get into more trouble. So we have to understand how we're misusing our spiritual and financial capital to invest in pain, suffering, and repeated birth and death. Those don't sound good because they're not. When we could be investing in the spiritual capital, and you get the choice of how much to invest. You can't do that with something else. You can't call up Reliant Industries and say, I would like to invest 100 crores in your company. They say, how much money do you have? None. You actually have to have the 100 crores to invest in it. But spiritually, to get the spiritual capital, you just have to surrender and practice these processes of devotional service. and it's up to you how much you can increase it. So the Sankhya means to understand the cost to benefit ratio between the material activities and the spiritual ones. And by doing that one, we will make the right choice. If I say, here, you can have a 500 rupee note for 1 crore of rupees. Or if I say, you can have a 500 rupee note for 100 rupees, which one do you take? You take the one that costs less and gives more. So even though it's some pain in the beginning, it's what we call cathartic. It's the kind of pain of the material activities leaving us. And the other thing is, when we're not sure, we ask someone who's more sure. We ask people to guide us. We read in the scriptures, and we study the basic things in Bhagavad Gita. And from this, we can do the two processes together. Because as it said, we're entangled, and we can't get out of this entanglement. That's like the fish says, I'll just bite the small fish on the bait and I'll be fine. But then it gets hooked, and now it's in trouble. So by studying Sankhya, because we think, well, I'll just go in the fire for a minute. But then we catch fire, right? Someone comes around with an RT lamp and say, well, I'll just touch it to my dhoti for a second. 1 second can't hurt, right? Then when it catches on fire, the fire takes place on its own. So we have to use this deliberate spiritual intelligence. That's what the Sankhya is. We have to be aware. We don't just blunder into things. We're aware of, just like the real estate, what is the highest and best use for the real estate? What is the highest and best use of my time? At 4:30, it's to be here in front of the deities. Afterwards, it's to be chanting rounds. When the evening has come around, the best use is to take rest so that I can wake up fresh. But we need to be deliberate and understand we don't just blunder into activities. Some of the things are planned for us, but we have to plan to go with those plans, because we don't just sort of float into the Mangal Artik. We have to plan, starting from the day before. I write down the things I have to do for the next day. Someone says, you write them down so you can remember? I said, no. I write them so I can forget, because I don't want to be thinking about them when it's time to chant my rounds. When it's time to do those, I open the book and look at them, because the way to increase the investment is to concentrate on what we're doing at that time. I tell people I drive a car, I chant rounds, and I use a computer, but not at the same time. We have to be aware of what is the best use of our time. And what color hair does Kapila Dev have? Golden, a blonde, right? So he must not be Indian then, right? Any Indian blondes here? I don't see any. Any questions or comments? Yes.
One devotional investment that maybe not everyone's so aware of, but it's from the Padma Purana, Aradhanam Sarvesham Vishnu Aradhanam Param Tajmat Parataram Devi Tadiyanam Samacharan. This is the Lord Shiva to Durga Devi. Although the Vedas recommend worship of the demigods, worship of Lord Vishnu is topmost. However, above the worship of Lord Vishnu is rendering service to the devotees related to Lord Vishnu. So devotional, devotee care, devotee service, it's so important for our spiritual development. Tigache?
I do it. It's an extra point. Like one time I was looking through Bhagavad Gita for a shortcut, and I found it, of course, in the end, where it says, one who teaches this science to my devotees is the most dear, and never will there be one more dear. I remember Radhanath Swami was giving a lecture, and he says, how do we treat people? He says, the best premise would be, how can I be helpful? So instead of trying to prove to people how great we think we are, we think, how can we be helpful? What can I do to help you? How can I serve you? What is it I can do to help? And by doing that, it's like Bhaktisiddhanta said to Prabhupada, it'll be good for them and it'll be good for you. The best help you can give yourself is to help others and not be so obsessed on our own. Such a wonderful point, because it makes all the rest of it very real, doesn't it? I don't push everyone out of the way. What are you doing here? This is my temple. We have to think how we can help others. And when we do that, we create a community of devotees who want to be there. And you make a lot of people who want to be your friends. You're a winner all the way around. So how we can help the devotees is the important thing. We start by not trying to offend them, correct?
Not try to what?
Offend them. The Rotary Club heard the austerity of speech, that speech should be truthful, pleasing, beneficial, not agitating to others, and based on knowledge, and they made that their motto. Now, if they use that as a motto, I think we should use it also. I think of that, how we can be pleasing and beneficial. And that's part of the deliberating. What's the best use of my time with people? How I can care for them and be helpful, especially if we've been around a while. Even if you've been around a short while, if you've been here a week, you can point to people where the Maha Mantra is, where the deities are, tell them when the class is there. You can always do something. And by helping the devotees, we become the most dear to Krishna, and we make lots of friends, and we become happy ourselves. So that investment makes the rest of them real. Because if I think I'm going to do the processes, but I'm going to be rude to people, I'm going to worship God and hate people, it's not going to work out well. Any other questions or comments?
Follow-up comment. In the last 3.5 years, I distributed over 6,000 japa affirmations to devotees.
Wow.
And every time I give one out, I feel so blissful. Krishna is pleased by it. So if you want to have your japa completely transformed, come to the Samadhi tomorrow morning. I'll have a whole bunch of them there waiting for you.
Tomorrow I'll be out with the TOVP helping them raise funds for the building next door. But I'd love to get them at some time. You know, we have to understand this Shastra. Somebody said that, japa is not important, only kirtan is. I said, really? Maybe you didn't study some of the things, because Krishna says, of sacrifices, I'm chanting of the holy names japa. That's pretty clear. It's not ambiguous. And at the time of initiation, Prabhupada asks you, how many rounds do you chant? So there's no Shastric evidence that chanting of rounds is not important. Obviously, it's the other way around.
I have a good quote in that regard.
Yeah.
Madhya 22, 113. This is Smartavya sadatam Vishnor Vishmartavyo najatuchit sarve vidhi nasheda shur etayor eva kinkara. One should always remember Krishna, and one should never forget Krishna. All the rules and regulations of Shastra are simply servants of these two principles. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, if you want to remember Krishna, you need to chant Hare Krishna. A few sentences later, he says, of all the orders of the Guru, the chanting of 16 rounds is the most essential. In other words, it's the most important.
I think based on those three things, Prabhupada saying it's the most essential, Krishna says that of sacrifices he is chanting of japa, and Prabhupada asking an initiation proves that it is obviously important. So we have to study these things. If we don't study them and know them, we will be convinced of something that's not true. Any other comment? Yes.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Prabhu, so much. I'm very convinced to invest. I'm very convinced to invest in the spiritual fund that you've talked about.
Yes.
But I was appreciating what you were saying when Lord Chaitanya is a capitalist, because he does mention in Adi Lila that he has so many fruits of love of God that he needs more people to invest in it to spread around the world. And the best thing about this is it's a multi-use investment of whatever we do, whether it's time, energy, words, etc. There's an eternal return for that, and it's with no circumstances or conditions. And so he writes that there's so much of it that he needs help to distribute it to everyone else. And I was wondering what thoughts you had to comment on that.
Another thing, whether it's investing in spiritual understanding or health or financially, you find someone who represents you and you stick with those. Once you have a financial advisor and you have Prabhupada, to go get random advice, either financially or spiritually, from all kinds of random people is going to cause you to lose money and spiritual capital also. Once you find someone that represents you and you represent them, you stick with them. It doesn't work out well to be all over the board. You see people, oh, someone told me they have a good investment. Oh, someone told me this is a good spiritual practice. But you can't learn random things from random people. Before you embark on any of these endeavors, you find someone who's an authority, whether it's financial, spiritual, health. You don't just listen to random people or random things on the internet. You find out from your authority, and once you find that, you stick with that. And then you won't be a loser in all categories. Hare Krishna. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for your